So now I'm going to try to make a little video. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to have it so that in the display function the pot is always rotating. So I'm going to do sort of a float G angle as a global variable and start it off at 0. And here I'm going to load the identity matrix so that we always kind of start from a known spot. And before I draw the teapot, I'm going to rotate by G angle around the y-axis. And what I'm going to then do is I'm going to provide an idle function. I'm going to go down here to do the idle function below keyboard, because I'd like to be able to call the other functions from it. And I'm going to say void idle. And what we're going to do a little differently is we're going to get the elapsed time in milliseconds. So int milliseconds equals glut get and glut elapsed time, and that's the amount of time that's passed since we called glut init in milliseconds, right? Then I can have this notion that I want the angle to change with respect to time, right? So I could set G angle is going to equal to milliseconds, excuse me for this, divided by 1000.0 f, so it'll do, well, milliseconds times, let's say 120 degrees per second, right? So 120 divided by 1,000, 1,000 milliseconds in a second, right? So we can get that angle going nicely, and then I can call glut post redisplay. And if I run that, then I should see, oh dear, the program is still running, I need to close it. If I run that and it compiles, I see nothing because I never registered the idle callback. So down here I need to say glut idle, and I pass in the idle function. And now if I run it, I have the teapot, and what's nice about this is the angle is moving. I can guarantee you that it's moving at the right velocity, 120 degrees per second, because I'm actually getting the elapsed time in milliseconds, and it doesn't depend on how fast my system is. If I hold this and I wait for a while for it to update, it moves further. Right, so the next thing that I can do is in this idle, I can kind of figure out the frame number, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a global last frame and set it to 0. And here I can set int frame equals milliseconds times, I want 30 frames per second over 1,000, and since these are integers, that. So this will give me 30 frames in a second, and if frame is not equal to the last frame, then I need to save the next frame in a video, right? And then of course after I save it, then I set last frame equal to frame. So that's kind of the pattern here. So what I want to do if I'm going to save them out as a video is I need to number them properly. So I give myself a buffer with enough room to hold the file name, and I'll use sprintf to generate the file name. So I'm going to give everything a prefix, frame, and then %0. So you give it a prefix 0 and you tell it how many digits you want, 4, and then decimal. So this will always do 4-digit decimals, and if I give it the number 1, it'll do 3 zeros followed by a 1, right? And then the extension .ppm, and then I need to give it. So this is asking for an argument that's a decimal, so it wants an integer. I'm going to give it the frame. And there we go. And so now I need to use that with the save buffer, but it's going to be kind of lagging a little bit, but that's okay. So let me just save frame buffer fname. Okay. If I really wanted to, I could call display directly here first. But okay, so let's see if this works. So save this, and we'll run it. It crashed. So we got to figure out what went wrong. And it looks like I used sprintf wrong. Sprintf is supposed to print to a string. It's missing the string that it's supposed to print to. So it's supposed to print to fname. Instead, it was trying to print into this, which is constant, and that made it crash. This is the format specifier, so I was just using this function wrong. So let's see if that fixes it. So here I have the pot rotating, and I'm going to close it, because if everything is working right, then this was generating a huge number of images. Yeah, you see all those images it generated? And so if you want to look at those as a video, note that it starts at frame 13. That's because it took that long for the thing to start. Then here we have in Irfan view, I can press this arrow and kind of hold this arrow down, and I can cycle through each frame, and I see the pot spinning. And if you want to do something better than that, then you can download FFmpeg. I downloaded it. So let me just copy this path. I downloaded FFmpeg, and I stored it in some crazy place. There's ffmpeg.exe. So I'm just gonna grab that file, and just for convenience, I'm gonna paste it in here next to my my output images. Can I do that? Come on. There's ffmpeg, and if I do com spec, I get my command prompt, and ffmpeg, just to make sure that everything is kosher. I print the help. That's nice. So now if I say ffmpeg and I specify as input, and then I can give it sort of the wild card for the images, and I had called them frame, and it's the same format specifier that I used with printf, %4d.ppm is the input, and then the next argument is the name of the output. So let me just call it gl image.mp4 is a video. I hit enter. Oh dear. Frame 0. What did I call them? Frame 1, 2, 3, 4d.ppm. Maybe it needs quotes. Oh, an index I in the range 0 to 4. So I named these frames wrong. It's telling me that I needed the frames to start with 0. So I'm deleting them all. And I've gone back to my program, and I'm just doing this sort of quick hack. I set first frame to -1, and if I haven't written the first frame yet, then when it's time to print the first one, I set the first frame to be frame -1, and then when I'm printing out the frames, I print out frame minus first frame, which means that even though, you know, it's 13, you know, at the frame rate it should be 13 out, that it still starts with 0, 1, 2. This is kind of a hack. This is kind of not the best way to do it, I suppose, but this will get them out in the right order. So if I run it, there's the pot spinning. I can let it spin for a while. You see it hiccup sometimes when these frames take a while to print. And when I open up GL Images, I see a bunch of frames, and if I open up the command prompt there and I say ffmpeg frame %0, and I'm going to output it to glimage.mp4, then it goes through successfully. There's no red text, and if I try to play the MP4, well, there it is. So there we go.